There once was a guy in our neighborhood named Johnny. He got picked on a lot for being confident and a funny guy. His mouth tended to get him in a lot of trouble. He seldom learned his lesson. He was just very content with who he was and refused to change it. When people asked him why he let them wail on him for his blunt comedy and wisecracks, he'd smirk and say, "Honesty is the best policy, and they're not hiding anything from me, neither am I from them." One of the kids he endeavourably pissed off with a rather rude MILF joke was something of a psychopath with a sadistic streak who didn't take kindly to the insult. So he rounded up the other guys who didn't like Johnny, and they cornered him after school in the science room. "Your mouth got you into this. I want you to remember that," Brett, the ringleader, told him as he looked into Johnny's terrified eyes. They grabbed some formic acid stored in the lab and threw it in his face. They stood around watching him scream in agony as it ate through his flesh before snickering and running out. Pretending to be concerned and wanting help for him, when the paramedics arrived and were attending to Johnny, who was no longer able to scream, the principal asked the boys if they knew what happened. The leader, Brett, explained that they were walking past when they saw Johnny sulking around the lab. By the time they got in there, he was already in that state. The other members joined in and backed Brett up with the fake details as Johnny tried to protest in the sound. The principal nodded and told them he would speak to them after he had a word with Johnny and gotten his side of the story after he was out of the hospital. A few days passed and Johnny was kept in an ICU with bandages on his leg. The doctors salvaged what little they could find, but what little they could of his face, his vision still intact in one eye. His jaw was smooth despite the loss of flesh. He was still unable to speak, refusing to respond to anything. Just as he sat there, his eyes unblinking and staring at the ceiling, bloodshot filled with animosity. When he was discharged from sometime later, he would not respond to anyone with anything other than the word liars. His social life gone, unable to smile or even crack a joke anymore. He secluded himself in his room and began planning. Sick, vindictive thoughts started appearing in his mind. He would get them all, one by one, disseminate them, slice them, burn them. He waited patiently until the group would be vulnerable late at night, when they said their goodbyes and went home separately. That's when he would strike. That weekend, Brett received a package in the mail. Curiosity, he'd opened it to find a VHS tape with the words, "For you," etched crudely on the front. He put it in and played it. It was a crudely recorded home video by an unknown cameraman who didn't speak at all for the duration of the film. It began with the camera pointing at a date on a newspaper. It was yesterday. As he zoomed out, you could see it was in a basement. A single flickering light bulb hanging above the casting, an uncomfortable scene. By the time he had completely zoomed out, it was apparently this was no normal video. In front of the cameraman on his hands and knees was one of Brett's friends, He was naked, dirty blindfold around his face, and a crude gag in his mouth. He was covered in blood. Horrific burns laced from lace rations and wounds. One particularly large one on his back stood out that almost looked like a word. The cameraman, with gloved hands, took the gag out of the crying boy's mouth, and immediately he begged to go home. Please, please, let me go, man. I didn't want. I did what you wanted. Oh God, Jesse, Mike, Keith, you made me fucking butcher them. I just want to go home, man. Please. I'm sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. He just kept repeating it over and over, rocking back and forth as he did so. Brett's legs began to shake as if he felt like a pile rise in his stomach. You can see the burned, mangled bodies in the background, the bodies of his friends. All of them had markings on their bodies in deep, large cuts. The cameraman reached out for the boy's chin and lifted it up, encouraging him to stand. He did so obediently, and as he was slowly led to a door off screen, whimpering. Brett can see what's being cut into his friend's back now. It's the word liar. The camera cuts out temporarily. When it restarts again, they're no longer inside. Instead, they're out in cold snow and outskirts of the woods, and it doesn't appear to be a original man holding the camera. Brett's friend. He's gurgling and shivering as he holds the camera in place for 30 seconds. Pointing at some trees in the distance, hearing footsteps drawing near. Where are you, man? You said I could go. You said I could go. The boys and screaming and crying. Right. That's fine. As they sounded like a crunching snow across near for seemingly every response. He turned around to see the mangled face of God. A horrifying howl blares through the speakers as the word liars appears before the tape abruptly stops. Brett feels faint and darts to lock the front door, knowing what was coming. As he turns and runs for it, he immediately hits something and falls backwards. The last thing he ever hears is liars. And acid runs down his face and begins to slowly eat away his flesh. The last thing he ever sees is Johnny's face contorting into a sick, twisted smile.